Sometimes putting that extra 5% into a house that's in a nicer neighborhood and is mostly ready to go is a much better investment than doing a full rehab with in not great area that's not going to appreciate very much. So it's okay to not follow the gurus who are only spilling the best deals out there. They're telling you they're creme de la creme deals and saying you can get that too. You can't get that every time. So
Yeah.
learn your market, do the work, and find out what deals do work in your area before you give up.
Alrighty, folks, it is time to address the elephant in the room. Yes, we are hearing it left, right, and center. There is no cash flow. You can't find cash flow in today's real estate market. We're going to have this conversation with Casey from Brick by Brick. Is that true? Do we believe it? Because I know I hear it every day. Casey, what's going on?
I hear it every day, Michael. My students are, complaining. There's no cash flow, then especially the new ones who are just looking to look in different markets. I'm not seeing any cash flow. Do I need to switch markets? I'm feeling very discouraged. And my answer to that is you're not looking enough. Let's see your spreadsheet. How many houses have you analyzed? How many zip codes have you looked into? How many properties have you researched? You can't just research one zip code and show me your spreadsheet with 5 analyzed houses and say there's no cash flow here. I mean, even in a regular, like better market, you have to do more than that. So you need a good enough sample size of analyzed properties to be able to determine whether there's actually cash flow or not. Many people just are giving up way too soon.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've come to kind of I try to shift people's minds, especially the new ones that are like, hey, I like this one rental at a time thing. I like this what Casey did with 9 houses and she's homeschooling. I want some of that, right? The lazy landlord, right? Dion with 16 or 18 or whatever it is. Um, I try to tell people all the time, you've got you've got to learn your market, right? You got to learn your buy box. And I try to put I try to put numbers around it because you're right. The number of people that have told me I can't find cash flow and they've looked like 3 days in a row hurts my head. I mean, it's insulting, frankly. Um, right. I tell people all the time, you got to get a buy box. You got to look at it for 90 days to 180 days or 3 to 6 months every single day. And again, this exercise is not to get you a deal. It's to help you understand what the average is. If you can articulate to yourself, Casey, or to me, that an average deal in my buy box after 6 months is a negative 4%, which means alligator,
Mhm.
that's a conversation we can have because at that point, you've looked at hundreds of houses. Your spreadsheet is, multiple pages or you have to scroll and you have a lot of data. If you have 3 or 10 or shoot 25, it's it's, it's
It's not enough.
insulting. It's not
No,
enough. Yeah.
no. What I like to say to people is now, okay, so as you know, people don't want to do the work. They don't want to do that much work. And they don't want to do that much work to find out that a market doesn't cash flow. Because if they spent 3 or 4 months and that market doesn't cash flow, that sucks. It's a kind of that freaking sucks. So is there like a shortcut to see, hey, is this market, does it even have a potential? Is there even a chance of it cash flowing? You know, so what I tell people to do is find let's say you're, well, Austin, I always use Austin as an example because it doesn't really cash flow, but let's pick something like Birmingham, Alabama. Let's say you are going to research Birmingham, Alabama. My first advice is try and find 3 to 5 zip codes that have cash flow potential, right? You're a couple $100 a month, a few $100s a month positive cash flow, just back of the napkin, looking at comps, not getting detailed, not perfect with your rent analysis, just to get an idea. Are we even close? Or are we negative couple $100 a month? And find 3 to 5 zip codes that have cash flow. Pick one zip code, look for 3 bedroom properties, and check out 10 properties. Do that on another zip code, 10 properties, another zip code, 10 properties. Are we even close? Go back and make that 25 properties, just like little bits at a time. If you're seeing success and you're close to cash flow, cool. Just put that zip code to the side for right now. Cool, it's got thumbs up. Go find another couple ones like that. And then once you find a few zip codes that have potential that you could really spend the 3 months or more researching, now spend your time really digging into really every single house that's on the market.
Yeah.
But if I told students go research every single house on the market, they're gonna fall over in their chair and they're gonna give up because it's just too much
Yeah.
work too fast.
Yeah. It's really I don't know if you believe this. I certainly do. You could disagree. I think real estate investing is a skill. And
Yeah,
because I think it's a skill, it could be
you need
learned
exercise.
and you need to exercise. You need to practice,
Mhm.
right? Practice. You
Yeah.
don't just wake up one day and suddenly you're a great real estate investor. Because one of the things, like I have a new buy box in Vegas, right? And it's crazy. Cash flow doesn't cash flow here. So what I'm likely going to have to do to make it cash flow in Vegas is I'm going to have to buy a single family home on a decent sized lot, probably with alley access or on a
Mhm.
corner. And the house is going to have to be positioned in a way where I can add a casita. They're called
Yep.
ADUs in California. Because standalone, I can't cash flow a house at today's rate, today's prices in Vegas. But I have a contact that can help me build a casita, which will add cash flow, right? A casita is going to cost me about, depending if I what size, 80 to 100 grand. But if I spend 100, I could get 1,700 in rent, 1,500 in rent, depending on where in the city. So that's going to be the cash flow for me, the second unit. Um, you could do midterm rentals. You could do there's so many ways that the other thing that I did a lot, because again I've been doing this forever, is there was a time in Fresno, California where I couldn't cash flow either. But
Yeah.
what I did is I found 2-bedroom homes and I bought them as two, but I rented them as threes, right? We added a door, a wall, and a closet. Made sure we had egress with a window. But you got to find ways. And the other thing you got to do is we're in a buyer's market, right? Nothing cash flows today. But do you know at what price you could offer that would cash flow?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what you have to find out. At what price point can I cash flow? Or what makes a cash flowing rental? What do I need to do in this area to get it to cash flow? And you can decide then if you want to do that or not. It might be turning in a formal living room or formal dining room into a fourth bedroom. I mean,
Right.
I've done that on one of my properties. It was a 2-bedroom, turned it into a three. Now I got instant equity and another $200 a month in rent. Oh, look, now I cash flow. And it just cost me
Yeah.
$400 to put up a wall and add a door. I mean, we did it ourselves, so it's cheap.
Yep.
But you can look for ways. You have to be a little creative. It's just not going to just be handed to you on a silver platter, these deals, especially right now. Although I will say now is the best time. We are entering winter. I mean,
Yes.
historically, every winter is the best time. Not only that, we have an election, so people are kind of bowing out at the moment. So
Yep.
we've got less people in the market making offers. And the sellers that are there out there right now are motivated sellers. Nobody wants to sell their home in this time of uncertainty.
Right.
Nobody wants to sell their home over Thanksgiving and Christmas and Halloween and not be able to put up decorations for their kids and their family because they have to do showings and they have to keep it zero personality, or you can't have any personal stuff in the house when you're showing ideally. So
Yeah.
it's not ideal. And those sellers that are selling right now are motivated. So it really is a great time to buy. Rates have come down. There's just less properties on the market than there have been in prior years. And there's also historically less because it's winter, but that's okay. There's also less buyers and people are willing to make the deal. So find out what it takes in your market to get the deal done. Sometimes in really nice markets where there's low crime and great schools, I'm not opposed to someone putting 30% down just because people say, oh, I gotta, that's not a great deal. I have a 25, 30% down. I gotta put 20. Well, sometimes putting 20% down means you're in a crappy area with not great tenants and you got a crappy house you have to rehab. Sometimes putting that extra 5% into a house that's in a nicer neighborhood and is mostly ready to go is a much better investment than doing a full rehab with in not great area that's not going to appreciate very much. So it's okay to not follow the gurus who are only spilling the best deals out there. They're telling you they're creme de la creme deals and saying you can get that too. You can't get that every time. So
Yeah.
learn your market, do the work, and find out what deals do work in your area before you give up.
Yeah. I mean, I just want, I want the newer investors to kind of feel this, right? It's always hard, right? It's always hard. The hard is different. Sometimes there's no lending. Sometimes there's high competition. Sometimes there's this. Sometimes there's that. The more you learn the skill of real estate investing, the easier it gets, right? The more I practice, the better I get, kind of thing. The other thing I just want people to realize is, you're going to look at hundreds, if not thousands, of houses over the years. You're going to write hundreds of offers. You're going to get told no hundreds of times. But don't forget to follow up. If there was let's just put some numbers on this, right? There's a house listed today at 275. It cash flows for you at 200. You can't pay more than 200. And it's been listed for 38 days. I have no problem writing up that house at 195. And again, I would tell my agent or go direct to the listing agent saying, "Hey, I'm a real estate investor. Here are my numbers. I can't pay more than 195. Write the offer." The seller's going
Yep.
to say no the first time. Who cares? Follow up next week. Follow up the next week. Eventually, the house will be sold. The house will be taken off the market, or you will buy it at 195 to 200, somewhere in there. So just guys, it takes work, practice. Um, yeah, I mean, I looked at my buy box, 93703, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, single story, 1,250 to 2,000 square feet for 3 years, almost 3 full years. I didn't look at anything else. Just,
Yeah.
just takes work.
Yeah. People want to give up a little too soon,
Yeah. Yeah.
look at research 5 properties, nothing cash flows. It's like, really, are you sure? It's
Yeah.
700 properties in that market that fit your criteria, and you only looked at 5.
Well,
Let's see 50, and then we can talk.
well, let me ask you this question, because I get this sometimes. Maybe it's a Silicon Valley thing, right? All this tech money rolling around. I get a lot of people that say, "Michael, I don't need the cash flow. I'm buying for appreciation." When
Yeah.
when somebody tells you that they're buying for appreciation, how does that hit you?
So what I tell people, I say, so there are super rich people out there, a lot of people that have a lot of money that can blink and lose 200 grand and they don't notice.
Hmm.
So cool. You go do you. If you can risk it, if you can basically pay that note on that property and not even notice that it's there. Okay, great. And you want to buy in Nashville or something, and you are a balls rich guy. I mean, sure. But for the average person that maybe can't afford to pay the mortgage more than 2 or 3 months, and then they're kind of like freaking out, never buy a property that doesn't cash flow, because you're not in a position to pay for a house to just sit there, worst case scenario, and not collect rent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's back to that kind of being lazy. I see it as a cop out. Again, I wrote about it in my
Oh, yeah.
first book, One Rental at a Time. I had a buddy of mine take me in his office and basically bragged that he could afford to have 4 negative cash flow properties.
I remember
Um,
reading that.
yeah, after Katrina. And it's just not it's not something I believe in. I know and to
No.
be clear, appreciation happens. I
Yeah.
have benefited from appreciation more than most, but I don't plan on it, right? It's kind of the accident or the whipped cream and the nuts on the sundae. I want to buy for cash flow. I want to be able to hold forever. And negative cash flow freaks me out.
Yeah, I don't like it, and I don't advise it from 99% of people that say they want to buy for appreciation. But if
Yeah.
you, like I said, you really want to be in a top-notch area and you see all this growth happening and you're in a low crime, high graded school area, and maybe if you put 35% down, you can cash flow.
I,
Okay,
I would do that.
nobody says you can only do 20% down.
Yeah.
Nobody says
Yeah. There's no,
that. So
there's no rule. Yeah, exactly.
no, there's no
Exactly.
rule. Just make sure. I mean, of course, you want to get the best cash on cash return, all that. But
Hmm.
there's also something to be said for being in a really good area and
Yeah.
not buying in the heart of Memphis or the heart of Atlanta or some of these really Detroit, some of these really dangerous cities where there is no appreciation. You're not able to increase rents. If you can see a generous rent increase at least every other year in some really nice neighborhoods that are poised for growth, and you know, like, oh my God, but to cash flow today, I need 30% down. Yeah, do it, you
Yeah,
know? There's not one right way to invest.
I like
There
it.
are a lot of ways, and there's a
I like
lot
it.
of good ways. Just make sure you make money along the way.
There you go,
No
folks. At the end of the day, don't give up too soon. Again, it does take time. It does take practice. It's always hard, but it's also worth it. Casey, where can people find you?
People can find me every day on YouTube, Brick by Brick Wealth, as well as Instagram, Brick by Brick Wealth.
Thank you so much.